Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. But today we are heading over to the EU because they are proposing backdoors for encryption on like everything. So here's what's going on. Really good write-up in TechSpot, but let's start with the European Commission's president, Ursula von der Leyen, who basically stated that the recently announced Protect EU plan essentially is trying to safeguard Europe from internal threats while emphasizing that security is a fundamental pillar for open societies and thriving economies. And that makes sense to me. But let's dive into the nuts and bolts, because among the most pressing threats identified by the EC or European Commission are terrorism, organized crime, cybercrime, and attacks on critical infrastructure. That's a problem worldwide, including here in the United States, Canada, you name it. So the EC is positioning Protect EU as a broad initiative in response to this increasingly complex crime landscape, not to mention a geopolitical landscape as well. And with hybrid threats of state-sponsored attacks wreaking havoc online, Europe is urgently needing a significant overhaul of its internal security strategy. Remember, the EU's member states all get together and basically act as one for a lot of these different things, a rising tide in this case, raising all boats. Now, while Protect EU does not yet include a detailed proposal, the official announcement outlines several key objectives as part of the foundation for what they want to do. Protect EU advocates for a new security governance framework aiming to transform the EC's approach to internal security. It also calls on EU member states to enhance intelligence sharing practices through a newly proposed platform known as the Single Intelligence Analysis Capacity, or SIAC. On top of this, the Commission envisions expanding Europol's role, effectively transforming it into a European equivalent of the FBI with enhanced operational capabilities. But the most intriguing and concerning, which is why we're here talking about this today, the most concerning aspect of Protect EU from a technological standpoint is its focus on Europol's expanded enforcement tools, which are intended to address increasingly complex criminal investigations that involve, obviously, digital information, oftentimes online. The plan includes provisions for a, quote, lawful access to data, end quote, outlining basically a technological roadmap that targets encryption and evaluates the EU's current data retention rules. Granting Europol, for the record, the ability to access this data basically means one thing. Essentially, they are proposing some form of government-mandated backdoor for the communication platforms that are protected by end-to-end encryption, think Signal, etc., etc. So these systems are, for the record, very difficult to breach, making them a challenge for law enforcement. Again, when you're running end-to-end encryption, true end-to-end encryption, not like the fake end-to-end that Facebook says Messenger has, this is a huge, huge thing. Now, here's the thing. Security researchers have been repeatedly demonstrating that implementing lawful backdoors is inherently flawed because vulnerabilities would inevitably be discovered, accessed, and then exploited by cyber criminals, not to mention, let's say, adversarial governments. Russia, I'm looking at you. And we know that when we're talking about the Signals of the world and the secure messaging apps of the world, that Russian, China, et cetera, all of their intelligence agencies are trying to break these things. So baking in a back door that could, let's say, be discovered because it wasn't as secured as you thought it was is a huge issue. So it remains to be seen how the EU plans to move forward with its encryption breaking ambitions, though expectations are pretty low on that one. Meanwhile, the Protect EU initiative also includes proposals to strengthen digital infrastructure, tighten regulations against organized crime networks, and expand internal and international cooperation with areas like Latin America, the Mediterranean region, so basically south of the Mediterranean, so think like Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, Morocco, et cetera, Gibraltar, and on and on. But notably, the European Commission has no mention whatsoever of a partnership or initiatives with the United States at this time, which kind of stinks. So here we are. That's what's going on. And quite frankly, if you're a longtime listener and follower of mine, you know that I am not a fan of making laws to the lowest common denominator, because the vast majority of us, 99.999% of us, are not criminals in any way, shape, or form, nor are we intelligence agents. And so we should have the right to privacy because we're not doing anything illegal. So I'll leave it at that. Crazy news. Let's see where the EU goes with this, but hopefully they're not setting a precedent for the world. And if they do, that's concerning. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well, not to mention Mastodon and Blue Sky. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please attempt to stay private, secure, and informed. Take care.